Now, Connecticut's only all-weather show. This is First Alert Weather Extra.
Well, it's not just many of us. Winter is also a hard time for animals, especially cats. Meteorologist Jill Gilardi is here tonight to share some more information on how you can help them survive.
Yeah, if you're an animal lover like me, you might do similar things, feeding the birds, putting out fresh water, even setting up a shelter for stray or feral cats that pass by. Well, before Winter Storm Benjamin, stray and feral cats were regularly visiting the shelter set outside of my house. They had access to a heated water source, an insulated, weatherproof cat shelter with a heated mat inside, where I would also place a bowl of fresh food. Now, at one point, 3 cats, different cats, were coming by. But after Benjamin, I didn't see any of them. Then Blizzard Calvin hit, and still there were no visitors. But on Saturday, the last day of meteorological winter, my camera was triggered, and there he was, the black cat. He looked more comfortable than ever, eating, grooming himself, and even resting peacefully. I had really wondered where they had gone, and the uncertainty made kind of my stomach sink, honestly. I was worried they didn't have warm shelter or enough food. But seeing him again brought a sense of relief I can't fully describe. Well, I tried thinking positively and did some research to find out where they might have gone during the harsh winter conditions. Most likely the stray and feral cats sheltered very close by. Cats are excellent survivalists and often tuck themselves under decks, porches, sheds, or into crawl spaces, barns, wood piles, or dense brush. Any tight enclosed area that blocks wind and traps body heat. During extreme cold and winter storms and blizzards, they also reduce their movement significantly to conserve energy, sometimes staying in one protected spot for long stretches and eating less frequently. It's very possible they didn't visit simply because leaving the shelter would have required too much energy in dangerous conditions. They may also have temporarily shifted to another nearby source for food, as outdoor cats often rotate feeding areas depending on availability. Of course, if another neighbor put out food, trash became accessible, or prey activity increased somewhere else, they could have adjusted their routine. The most reassuring sign, though, is that the black cat returned and appeared relaxed, eating, grooming, and even resting. That behavior suggests he felt safe and he remembered my shelter as a reliable source. So feral cats are very aware of their territory and do not easily forget dependable warmth and food. Most likely, they hunkered down in well-protected spots during the storms and are now slowly reemerging as conditions improve. So if you are in the same boat as myself, I hope it gives you a little peace of mind. And yep, keep putting out the fresh food just in case they return. Back to you.